Cool. All right, so this is the Big Friendly Swim podcast. For those who might not know you, like, can you, I guess, introduce yourself and like
Mhm.
take us through your history in swimming?
Yeah. So my name is Charlie Clark. I'm currently a junior at The Ohio State University. And I've definitely I've been around swimming pretty much my whole life. I grew up in Sandusky, Ohio, well, in Vermillion, Ohio to start, right on Lake Erie. So swimming was always a huge part of my life. Everyone growing up was always swimming at the beach, the public pools. But then it was really 2008 watching Michael Phelps in the Olympics that really sparked my love for competitive swimming and made me decide to join a swim team. I was 6 years old and I tried out for the Vacationland Swim Club, which ended up being my main club later on, but I actually didn't make the team when I first tried out. Um, so I joined my the Vermillion YMCA Torpedoes. I swam with them for a while, switched back over to Vacationland a while later, um, and then swam with them all the way up through college. So.
Cool. So I guess that leads me into what was like the driving choice behind
Mhm,
Ohio State, and like what's it been like there, both like academically and on the team?
mhm. Yeah, so I've always been an Ohio State fan, growing up in Ohio. Always loved the Buckeyes. And getting recruited, they were definitely the fastest and the best school that was interested in me. I wasn't a super high-powered recruit coming out of high school. So I knew looking at my options that going with Ohio State was going to be my best choice to further my swimming career. They were going to give me the best opportunity. They were a very elite team at the time. I mean, they were the fastest improving team in the country. They went from 24th to ninth, I believe, in the NCAA in one season, which was really impressive for me. And it's been great here. The training, especially in the distance group, has improved a lot, especially since I've started. We have one of the best distance training groups in the country right now. So training couldn't be better. I love the coaches. I love the culture. And academically too. I mean, we're Ohio State's a pretty respectable university. The classes are great. I love it here.
All right. You know, sorry,
Oh, you're okay.
I was looking at the questions and I was about to reread the same one that I just that I just asked you. So I'm curious, since the pandemic was right in the middle of when you were probably making that decision to go to college
hmm
and when you were making probably a plan for Olympic trials.
Yeah.
How did it affect that plan? And do you think the 1 year delay of trials in the Olympics was a benefit, or did it hinder the plan that you initially had in place?
Yeah, so I had already committed to Ohio State by the time the pandemic hit. That was right about midway through my senior year of high school. So I was able to finish up my high school career as well. I finished my state championships right before, like a couple weeks before everything shut down. Um, and yeah, going into the Olympic trials, I had qualified for the Olympic trials the summer before. I would definitely say that it helped me at the trials, having a year later, because it originally I would have been going into the trials as a 17-year-old fresh out of high school, with no real elite training, just high school and club training. But after it being postponed a year, I was able to have a full season of D1 college training under my belt, very high level coaching, and it's just another level of training for basically an entire year, and just a lot more experience as well. So I would definitely say that I would not have finished as high at Olympic trials if it hadn't been postponed.
You know, you mentioned getting to like finish your high school season right before
hmm
everything shut down. My community college season got like 3 weeks into our season and then everything shut down.
Oh no, that's
we went
yeah,
from
that's
having a
bad.
meet one weekend to like
Mhm.
the Monday after being told that our season was canceled.
Oh no, yeah, that was a rough year for sure.
So okay, you get to Olympic trials.
hmm
You I don't know if you necessarily surprised yourself getting fifth in the mile, but obviously it was a you mentioned how the extra year helped.
hmm
How do you think being that close, being 3 spots away from making the Olympic team, how do you think that affected your training and your drive for the next year? Because you made the World Championships team in two
Right.
events a year later.
Yeah, so I that the Olympic trials definitely opened my eyes to just like another level of swimming. Because like my goal going into the trials was to final and get top eight. So finishing fifth, and I had a pretty big time drop there as well. I went from 15:21 to 15:14 in the long course mile. So it really just like it made me realize that it was possible to really do something in like at that level. Only being three spots away, it really made me kind of just realize like, wow, like if I can just get a little bit better, I could really be up there with the rest of the guys who are making teams. And witnessing people firsthand like achieve their dreams by qualifying for the Olympics, just from like one race, can completely change your life in that sense. That really it just motivated me a lot going into that next season to try to train extra. I'm already training hard, but this gave me a little bit extra edge to try to make that world championship team the next summer.
So obviously that edge ended up working out. You made the World Championships
Hmm.
team the following summer.
Yeah.
But what were some of the takeaways from that first World Championships for you? And hopefully there's more of them. But
Yeah.
how do you think the lessons you've learned since those World Championships have affected your training in like the 7-8 months since then?
Hmm. Yeah, so the World Championships in Budapest definitely did not go the way I hoped they would. My swims at World Trials, I was very happy with, and ended up having me going into World seated sixth in the mile. And I felt that I had more time to drop. I felt that there was enough time in between the two meets where I went up to altitude to the OTC, and I put in a really good block of training between those two meets, and I thought I had some faster swims in me. So my goals going into Worlds were to final in both the 800 and the mile. And my goal was to place top five in the mile and hopefully break that 1450 barrier. And I ended up missing the final in both and adding like 9 seconds in the mile. So it definitely did not go the way I wanted. But it was a great experience getting to race internationally. It's totally different than racing domestically. Just with like traveling overseas, like having 28 hours of travel just to get to the competition venue. And then also spending like 3 weeks overseas in the team camp environment before the competition even starts. Just all that, the little things that you don't even think about. Just getting a couple reps of that under my belt and getting experience with it, I think helped a lot. And then also getting to become friends, like not only just getting to meet, but become friends with a lot of the Team USA guys who I like idolized and looked up to my whole swimming career. Getting to train with them for a month and just get really close and become friends with them. That was amazing. Great opportunity. So for training going forward, it was kind of like same as Olympic trials. Like it opened my eyes to a new level of swimming. Like being at the World Championships and competing there, it showed me like what the highest level of the sport is. And it made me it makes me want to get to that level. So it definitely just adds another level of desire and motivation for my training to try to get to that point.
Cool. Um, I think that's a pretty good way to put it. That even though it didn't go well for you, you were able to take that and apply it to your swimming over the months after, and
Mhm.
hopefully in the months in the future. But so while I was doing some research for this, I came across like I guess an article that you did with
Mhm.
USA Swimming where you
Yeah.
mentioned yourself as a late developer, and you cited your junior year of high school as like the first time when you were like, all right, I could do something with this. I could be good at this.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was like the first moment where you're like, oh, okay, I can be a swimmer.
Hmm. Yeah. So like I'd say starting in like freshman year of high school is when I really dedicated myself 100% to the sport of swimming, but I wasn't very good. So like I remember in eighth grade, right before high school, I missed qualifying for zones, which you had to have like a USA Swimming has those like A cuts or whatever. You had to have a triple A
Yeah.
cut, and I missed it. I was devastated. So then going into my freshman year of high school, I made the state championships for the first time, finished second to last, but I made it.
Still
Um,
made it.
yeah. Sophomore year, I got fifth at the state championships, and I got like my first speedo sectional cut. Junior year, that was really when I started, because like I've always had that love and dedication for swimming. But the physical side of things just kind of weren't there yet. Like I was like, I think I was 5'3" or something as a freshman, and couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds. But by the time I got to junior year, my love and dedication were still there. But then the physical side of things started to come as well. Like I started growing, getting bigger. Um, so after junior year, I placed second at the state championships, close race, almost got the win, but not quite. And then right after those state championships, I qualified for my first winter, or no, I swam at the winter junior championships my junior year. I think I placed 11th in the mile, and that was my top finish. And then that summer following my junior year, that's when I really that's what I would say was my breakout summer. I went from 16:04 to 15:33 in the long course mile and qualified for Olympic trials. I think I broke the Olympic trial cut by like 11 seconds or something like that. Like my goal that summer was just to get the cut. But I really surprised myself with my performances that summer. And then I think I was ranked like third in the country, 18 under. And like I was pretty sure I was top 10 or top 15 overall in the country. So that was the summer where I like really surprised myself with what I could do. And it kind of opened my eyes to that I could probably do something with this in the future.
You mentioned swimming at state championships. Was that in the 500?
Yeah, in the 500.
I had a similar thing happen to me at our conference champs last year where I got beaten by that much in the mile. Like that, like 6/100ths of a second at the end of
wow.
the end of
In
a
a
like
mile.
20-minute race. I'm like,
Yeah.
it was to my teammate though, so I can't be too mad.
Yeah.
So I kind of put this question on here for me because I'm a distance swimmer too. I'm curious if you can share some of the sets at Ohio that have either been the most fundamental to your like development as an athlete or just flat out have been like difficult to complete.
Yeah, so we don't do a ton of just like we would call them monster sets at Ohio State. Like no, like we don't do like hundreds on a minute or anything crazy like that. We'll definitely have a set here and there that's pretty brutal. But the biggest thing that has been hard for me coming from high school is just the consistency that like every single day, every practice is going to be pretty tough, and you're expected to give 100% every single time, and that the cumulative effect of that adds up. But some specific sets that I would say have definitely been pretty beneficial to my development have we like to do broken miles pretty often at Ohio State, and we break them a few different ways. Sometimes we'll go 66 75s in sets of 22. 22 75s is a broken 1650. So we'll go like 22 on 45, then a reset, 22 on 50, reset, 22 on 55, and basically just as 3 add up miles. And
Sounds
another one that I
brutal.
really like. Yeah, it's very tough, and we'll usually suit up for that. And I'm expected to hold anywhere from 37.5 to 38.5 is like the range I try to hit. Um, Another one, my favorite way to break the mile, which we actually just did last weekend, I guess 2 weekends ago now, is so it's a 75 on 50, a 300 on 3 minutes, two 75s on 50, a 300 on 3 minutes, three 75s on 50, a 300 on 3 minutes, four 75s on 50, all like mile pace basically. I really love breaking a mile that way. I'll usually hold around 37 O's on the 75s, and I'll get down between 240 and 235 on the 300s. And we'll usually do that. We'll do that like once and add in a few broken 500s with it. So those broken mile sets are pretty fundamental to my training. And we also do a lot of work with the GMX7, like the pulley resistance training, instead of like parachutes. And we'll go like 3 times a week. We'll go between 1,800 to 2,400 meters on the GMX7 pulley. So those are pretty typical sets for us.
I'm curious because I was talking to the head coach at Indiana, Ray Lewis, just last week, and he was telling me about
Yeah.
their pulley system. Have if you've used parachutes before, like when you were swimming club,
Yeah.
can you, like what's the difference between them? Because I've only ever used parachutes. So I'm curious
Okay.
like how different it feels.
Yeah, so we actually used parachutes as well. My freshman year at Ohio State, we didn't have the pulleys yet, so it would be 3 times a week we would use fins, paddles, and parachutes as our resistance training for the distance group at least. The sprinters use like the power racks and the power towers and everything. So I personally like the pulleys better, because so for a few reasons. One, it doesn't affect your body position in the water. The parachutes, they kind of pull your hips down a little bit, just with like the way that they catch water dragging behind you. It affects your body position slightly. Whereas the pulleys, it doesn't really pull on your hips at all. The cord comes off to the side of your hip, and it kind of just goes alongside you as you swim instead of pulling you backwards. It's still resistance, but it doesn't affect your body position at all, which I like. And then the other thing is how adjustable it is. You can adjust it to the point where there's no resistance at all and you're swimming completely like normal. And you can tighten it all the way down to where you physically can't move it, no matter how hard you're pulling, and anywhere in between. So there's infinite levels of resistance that are available. So I really like the customization and how specific you can get with the resistance that you're trying to have.
That's pretty interesting, actually. I'm like visualizing how that works. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think they're very beneficial. We started using them beginning of sophomore year, so a little over a year ago, and I've noticed a big improvement.
That's good. So going back to when you were in high school and
Hmm.
you committed to Ohio State.
Hmm.
You said you were the first athlete from your club team to swim at a D1 school. Has that changed since then? And if anything, did did that positively impact the club team itself in terms of did more people from the team end up going on to swim in college?
Yeah, so the article that put that in, it was actually a little bit of a misinterpretation of what I said. People have gone to D1 schools for my team. It had just been a very long time.
Ah, okay.
So we actually have a decent history of people going to Ohio State. We've had 3 swimmers from my club go to OSU in the past. One of them still has the long course 200 breaststroke record, but it's been years since anybody's come out of our program to go to a D1 school. And it was just a misinterpretation on that article. But it was definitely it's a very very small club team. Like when I was in our senior group, it was me and like 3 or 4 other guys and maybe 3 girls in our senior group, high school group on my club team. And like there wasn't a huge history of people from my team going to elite schools. So it was I don't know, it was a pretty unique situation in that training group. But there have been so there was one guy in the grade below me, so he would be a sophomore now. He ended up going to Cincinnati following the year I committed to Ohio State, so another D1 school there. So and we have a guy. He's a senior right now at my high school, and he hasn't committed yet, but he'll probably end up going D1 as well. So we have a few guys going pretty strong right now for my team.
I think that's pretty cool, and it can show like the chain effect of having just one
Hmm.
athlete go on to either swim at a D1 school or like make a world
Right.
championship team,
Yeah.
and how that can positively affect other people on the team. Be like, hey, I swim with that guy. I could do
Yeah,
that
for
too.
sure. Yeah, and it's good. I like as well. Like I go back to the club all the time, like over Christmas break and Thanksgiving, to train when I'm on home on break. I just love talking to the younger guys on the team and just telling them my experiences and letting them ask any questions they have. And like I know like when I was their age, like if I had somebody who had been like on a world champs team come back to talk to us, I would have loved that. So I hope that I can be something like that to them when I come back and hopefully inspire them a little bit.
I think that for me, I can relate to that, in that that's been like a unifying thing on everybody that I've talked to and like doing these interviews is
Yeah.
everybody that I've talked to has been really dedicated to trying to use their platform and use their like place in the world of swimming to spread positivity and do good
Right.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my last question for you,
Hmm.
this is a bit of a loaded question. There's a couple parts to it.
Okay.
So I'm curious where you see yourself in 2 years. So obviously 2024, I guess a year and a half now, 2024. Where you see yourself in 5 years time,
Hmm.
and where you see yourself in 10 years time. And
Okay.
and this is as much as you're willing to share of like your own goals. I know a lot of people like to keep them safe.
Hmm. Yeah. So I don't really I don't mind sharing my goals. I think it's good to talk about that kind of stuff. So in a year and a half from now, going into Paris, I mean, obviously I don't know how things will shake out, but I see myself being at the Paris Olympics. My goal is to hopefully make a final like I didn't do in Budapest, turn around and hopefully make that in Paris, and see how high I can place there. Hopefully get a top three finish and medal there. 5 years, so that'd be going into the 2028. That would be getting
Yeah.
ready for the 2028 cycle. So I plan on swimming for as long as I can. So hopefully I'll still be very
Be a
active
home
and
Olympic
fit in the
Games.
swimming. Right. So hopefully I see myself in 5 years preparing for that'd be the LA 2028 Olympics. We'd be in this time January going into the Olympics year. So I'd be in pretty tough training right now, just doing some final preparations, final push for that Olympic quad, Olympic cycle. And then in 10 years, that'd be 2033. So that'd be coming right off of the 2032 Olympic year, which, if everything goes well and I'm lucky enough and healthy enough to keep going through the 2032 Olympics, I would love to do that. That'd be Brisbane. And that would be, I'd have to say that would, if I can make it that far, that would have to be my last Olympics, and I'd probably call it retire, hang up the suit and goggles.
You probably
after
wouldn't
that
want to
one.
be swimming the mile at that point.
Right. So 2033, I'll probably be retired from the sport of swimming. And I love to just get into more of my hobbies, and take a break from working and athletics for a while. And I'd really love to get into mountaineering, and playing clarinet and saxophone, which are two of my hobbies right
Oh,
now.
you play music?
Yeah, I played clarinet since middle school, elementary school actually. I stopped in high school, but I started picking it back up again this summer just to give me something to do to take my mind off things, keep some stress down. I found it's really fun. And then I also picked up a saxophone a couple weeks ago, and I don't know how to play it yet, but I'm learning. So.
I play the violin, and then like a couple years back, I picked up like the viola and the cello.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that got me a little bit excited. I'm like, you play music too?
Yeah, not super great. Probably definitely not as good as you, but yeah.
All right, man. Well, cool. This has been a lot of fun. Short and sweet.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I like to do whenever I do these interviews or whenever I talk to people in this setting is I always like to give you time to say whatever you want. So like in the case
Okay.
of I chatted with Caitlin Sandino back in like September, and she just promoted being kind and being nice to people. It's literally just your time is like freedom to say whatever you want.
Okay. So I guess I'd like to say two things. I would like to, if anybody's watching this, I would like to thank my sponsors, both TYR. They believed in me from even right as soon as I qualified for the World Championships. They were my number one supporter, and they provide me with everything I need to be successful in the sport, as well as P2 Life. They give me all the supplements and everything I need to keep my body healthy. And then I guess while I'm here, I could drop my Instagram account to try to grow my platform a little bit.
I'll
So
put it in the
you guys can,
description too.
yeah. It's Charlie Swims 32 VSC. You guys can go drop a follow.